The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
The best way to support The David Pakman Show is to become a David Pakman Show member. Go to davidpakman.com/membership. You'll get the podcast commercial-free audio and video of the bonus show hosted by producer Louis Motamedi and an archive of shows that dates all the way back to August of 2005. Louis, we've been talking a lot about military suicides. We've been talking a lot about suicide related to Apple products and whether there's really a claim to be made there or not. Military suicide rates, according to a number of headlines, have risen to nearly one a day so far in 2012. 154 suicides for active duty troops in the first 155 days of the year, which far outdistances the number of troops killed in action in Afghanistan. It's actually 50% more, according to Pentagon statistics. I think that's the most interesting comparison, that there's significantly more death from suicide than the number of people that are actually dying in combat in Afghanistan, not really being discussed.
Right. Overall, I think the number of soldiers killed in Afghanistan is higher, but clearly at the moment, the suicides are outpacing the deaths.
The other interesting thing, though, is we have to compare the number of suicides among active duty troops to the number of suicides among Americans more broadly, right, to really know if we have something here. Because when we looked at Foxconn and Apple, after actually making some comparisons, it turned out there really doesn't seem to be that much of a difference. Yes, there are suicides among Foxconn workers, but were we right in saying that it is way above and beyond the standard in that type of work or the standard within China? Let's look at the numbers. The U.S. rate of suicide is, at last count, which was at the most recent numbers I could find were, I think, 2008 or 09, 11.8 suicides per 100,000 people, okay? When we look at the numbers in the military, there's 1.4 million active duty troops currently, and 308 is the number that I found. That, if we average it down to 100,000, would be 22 suicides per 100,000 people. So there is something there. You're talking double. You're talking basically exactly double. Now, what should the focus be on? Okay. Some people are saying if we're talking about active duty troops, the problem is that the number of clinical psychologists in the military is not high enough, right? In other words, that the ratio could be as low as one psychologist per 1,000 service members, which many say is just way too low. But there's also another problem, Louis, which is that the military and civil services system may not be treating troops right in the sense that you get back from your deployment, you go to the VA for back problems when you get home. It's now on record that you had this issue, and it puts you at a potential disadvantage when trying to get a job as, say, a firefighter or a police officer, something which former members of the military may want to do. If you go for mental health issues, what happens? It goes on your permanent record, and it is used against you in a huge number of state and federal government jobs, right? If there are two equally qualified candidates, one has this in their record after they came back from an overseas deployment, they went and were seen for something that was diagnosed as PTSD or whatever it may be, all of a sudden now they're at a disadvantage for the rest of their lives for getting a job. That seems like a huge problem.
That's a problem. I mean, I guess that could add to your depression level. But should soldiers be exempt from that going on the record? Would that help? I mean, the PTSD is still there, and that's still a huge problem itself.
It is, but let's think about it a different way. If you come back, if you have a civilian job that's stressful and you go see a therapist, that doesn't show up anywhere on anything that future employers would look at. Now, I would guess that if you're applying for like an FBI job, they would do a background test and they would probably ask you questions about whether you've been treated for these things. They would ask for medical records, etc. But for a kind of mid-level government job, if you come from a private sector background and you saw a therapist for something that could be just as serious, they're not going to know that, right? So we're putting these people at a direct disadvantage.
Yes, but at the same time, I mean, I'm sure you can understand that for some of these soldiers, the PTSD, there are different levels, right? I mean, if you've got a guy who's working in a busy place, there are loud noises, there are things going on that could startle or scare. I mean, what if one of these people snaps and something terrible happens? I mean, shouldn't you need to know that as an employer?
But then why aren't we applying this to private sector people also and knowing what mental illness they may bring to the table or any kind of mental health issue?
I think just because of the nature of your job when you're in the military, when you're overseas fighting in a war zone.
Okay. What do you think about this? Send me an email, david@davidpakman.com.